This bulletin is coming to you live from the Joy 99.7 FM studios here in Kokomlemle at digital address GA0993341. Also live on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, affiliates across the country including Pando FM in Pando, Radio Y in Y, and A1 Radio in Bogatanga. The news is brought to you by UMB Bank, UMB Speed Up, Digibank. Let's go. In this edition, Ashanti region runs out of beds for treatment of COVID-19 patients as all 38 beds at Komfo-Anokye and Kumasi South hospitals are occupied.
Accra may have UGMC, they may have Kolebu, they may have 37 military hospital, they may have police hospital. Ashanti, apart from Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, we don't have any facility that we can say can manage severe and critically ill.
We have details as officials work to secure more beds in private hospitals to deal with the crisis. Also, health officials in the Ashanti region raise alarm about the tricky new COVID-19 symptoms confused with malaria.
All that we get is malaria-like symptoms. So people assume that it's malaria. By the time we get to know that it's COVID, then a lot of health workers have been exposed.
We have more on this as 97 health officials self-isolate after testing positive for the virus. Electoral Commission announced that it has set in motion plans to have Ghanaians resident abroad vote in this year's parliamentary and presidential elections.
As another one, Service asked Dr. Bosman if the option of voter transfers will be done in 2020.
Yes, it's something that came up yesterday, and we are special budget committee members that we are going to do it.
We'll hear from the Deputy Commissioner. National and Opposition NDC finally signs comprehensive roadmap designed by the National Peace Council to deal with the threat of party militia, but not without some reservations.
There have been statements by the Deputy General Secretary of the party to the extent that in the upcoming registration exercise, if anybody there, they will beat us more than what happened in Ayawaso West.
We'll bring you an update from the signing ceremony and later on Spotlight.
I've been singing all my life since I was a kid. I sang right from primary school.
We shine the lights on the works of high life artist Ben Bracco, who had to travel to the United Kingdom to get his big break in music. That and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apawu. Please stay for details. And this afternoon, two main hospitals in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, handling COVID-19 patients have run out of beds at their treatment centers. 38 beds at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital and the Kumasi South Hospital are all occupied, raising fears about a crisis situation in the treatment of patients. The Ashanti region has 2,275 cases of COVID-19 with 38 deaths. The Ashanti Regional Health Director of Health there, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkrang, addressed the news conference today on the matter.
Almost all the treatment centers are now full. Komfo-Anokye has 18 beds. The 18 beds are now full. Kumasi South have 20 beds. So as at now, we have a total of 38 beds. All the 38 beds are now full. So what we've decided to do is that we need to expand the number of the beds that we have for the treatment centers.
The region has begun a search for more beds at both government and private hospitals.
So we've decided that we are going to expand Kumasi South from existing 20 beds to 41 beds. As at now, we've been given another ward. Work is rapidly ongoing to make sure that we expand it. We've also secured 7 beds at Central Hospital to support our treatment facilities. And we are also negotiating with one of our senior doctors who has decided to give us his hospital to be used as a treatment center. When that one is finally done, we hope that we can add about 100 beds to the treatment centers that we have to make sure that it will be up to about 38 beds. Because the numbers that we have here and the number of cases that we are getting, it said that we cannot contain it.
That's the Ashanti Regional Director of Health, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkrang. My colleague Ohiming Teria joins us on the line with more on this. Ohiming, first, let's talk about the disparity in the number of deaths reported in the region and what the Ghana Health Service is reporting. What did Dr. Tinkrang say?
According to Dr. Emmanuel Tinkran, it is wrong for anybody to assume that the national figures are being massaged. According to him, when cases of this nature, data is compiled and sent to the national office, it takes a lot of auditing to ascertain whether indeed these are COVID-related deaths before the figures will be updated on the national level. So he thinks that from the Ashanti region, it's not only Ashanti region, compared to other regions in the country, that is the same thing being done elsewhere. So he believes that people should understand how COVID is being managed, and a lot of work is also going into it as far as the management of COVID-19 in Ghana is concerned.
Now, Dr. Tinkran also says that people are dying without showing any serious symptoms. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, he's concerned with the fact that more people are contracting COVID-19, especially in the Ashanti region. They are not showing any symptoms at all. These are people who report, especially at private facilities, with no sign of the condition. These are asymptomatic people, but normally they will go there and not even showing signs of fever. And you think that this should be an issue of concern to people in Ashanti region, and people should continue and start adhering to all protocols as announced by government. We can take a listen to him.
The challenge we have with COVID deaths that we've analyzed here is that most of the deaths do not come with the classical signs and symptoms that we know. The cough, difficulty in breathing, and other things sometimes are absent. All that we get is malaria-like symptoms. So people assume that it's malaria. By the time we get to know that it's COVID, then a lot of health workers have been exposed, and because of that, most of them are now doing self-isolation. So there's a need also at the national level to review the signs and symptoms and then share it with the private facilities so that we do not focus only on certain signs and symptoms like cough, difficulty in breathing, and then it's COVID. Because in the Ashanti region, we are seeing quite different picture.
Now, Henning, briefly, the issue about the shortage of beds in the region. Tell us about the impact on the management of COVID-19.
Dr. Emmanuel Tinkran says this should be a concern to almost everybody in Ashanti region, especially where all treatment centers are full. For instance, at the Kumasi South Hospital, there are only 20 beds available, and also at Kompanochi Teaching Hospital, if you look at the figures, only 18 beds that are available. But currently, all these beds are not available. They are full now. They are being occupied by COVID-19 patients. And this has also resulted in a situation where, for instance, the patient who was referred from Kumasi Government Hospital to Kumasi South Hospital was turned away because there were no beds. Therefore, he says, yes, if efforts are not made to rectify the situation, it will affect negatively efforts to manage COVID-19 in the Ashanti region.
That's my colleague Ohiming Teria. He's a member of the health desk. Let's return to Accra because the head of the desk himself, Fred Smith, has been speaking to the Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Bernard Okuboy, on these matters that have come up. Fred, what did he say the ministry is doing to deal with the crisis?
Well, the issue is not limited to the Ashanti region, as he said, because in all the regions where we're recording a lot of cases, you have people now showing symptoms requiring that they stay in hospitals for treatment, which means they have to be at the treatment centers. Because of that, there's a lot of pressure on the treatment facilities. What government is doing is to expand our treatment facilities to ensure that persons who are contracting the virus and are showing symptoms and requiring medical attention in a facility are able to get that treatment. He spoke to me on the sidelines of a donation by the Chinese embassy to the Rich Hospital. They actually donated a ventilator. We can hear Dr. Okoboy.
By nature of the disease itself, few cases take more space, and it also accounts for the reason why people are asking that we create more space to take care of them. So when you come to Rich, for example, they have about 8 beds or so high dependency units, but we want to have ICU units. We want to create beds now, COVID ICU. At the University of Ghana Medical Center, they have 5 ICU beds for COVID-19, but they have other beds at the ICU. They can go up to about 15 or 16. So what we are trying to do now is to make sure that all the 16 beds are brought up to be COVID ICU beds. If you go to 37, there are 4 beds dedicated for ICU, COVID ICU. But they have other beds for ICU as well. But remember, if someone gets a road traffic accident, they might need ICU beds. So we can't dedicate all our ICU beds to only COVID. And so when you hear that 37 is full, it doesn't mean they don't have any ICU beds, but it means the 4 dedicated to COVID have been exhausted. And we are trying to make sure that there are more such beds. An ICU can only be fit and proper for a COVID case when it has a ventilator. It's very crucial. And so we are excited. Kumasi, if you have a COVID case that is critical, they are handled at Konfanoche and 1 or 2 designated places. What the doctors are asking for is a GAIS-like facility, a facility completely dedicated to COVID cases, like the way we have in GAIS. And 2 hospitals are being considered. The Bekwai Hospital, which is just near completion, about 98 or 95%, and also the military hospital in the Ashanti region. So the ministry is working with Ministry of Finance to make sure that we get the resources and quickly make them facilities that will be available for COVID.
And that's the Deputy Health Minister, Dr. Bernard Okoboy. Of course, he'll be on Beyond the Lockdown this Sunday as well to answer questions related to the COVID-19. But you were talking about 15 ventilators that were donated by the Chinese community. How is it going to help with the fight against COVID-19?
Indeed, the Greater Accra Region Hospital is actually expanding its capacity to handle COVID cases, and so they're going to set up a dedicated ICU center where more critical cases can be handled by them. Until now, they were handling just 4, and they intend to use the donation plus other things that they've actually requested from the government to be able to expand the capacity.
Okay, so whilst you're here, you can give us an update on our COVID situation assistance now.
Yes, indeed. We have 12,193 cases so far. The active cases we have is 7,809. That's because we have 4,326 people recovering, and we still have 58 deaths.
Okay, and that's the head of our health desk, Fred Smith. Now, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital says it's created a special ward for all expectant mothers with suspected cases of COVID-19. The hospital is worried that some pregnant women are refusing to come to the facility for fear of sharing wards with infected people. In an interview with Joy News, Administrator at the hospital, Dr. Emmanuel Stropenyo, says protocols rolled out there should protect everyone accessing services there.
The system is quite ready. We have a room. First of all, we have a system that we call the pre-triage. So we will not allow you to mingle with the people before the initial screening questions are asked.
Now, acting head of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at the hospital, Dr. Kwabna Omari Yeboah, says pregnant women should have no fears coming to the hospital.
Don't stay home with the fear that when we go there, we will have COVID. Because we've put in place measures to deal with them, to protect them, particularly a pregnant woman, because you can't postpone pregnancy, you can't postpone delivery.
Now, the acting head of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at the hospital, Dr. Kwabna Omari Yeboah. And the sound of that tells you is your election headquarters here on Joy 99.7 FM, and the opposition NDC has finally assented to the comprehensive roadmap designed by the National Peace Council to deal with the threat of party militia, but not without some reservations. The party has cited a number of concerns, including government's failure to reprimand persons indicted in the Emil Short Commission report and the alleged recruitment of NPP thugs into the security agencies. Chairman of the party, Samuel Ofuswampo, for leading a delegation to sign the document, observed that the party is signing because of its resolve for the rule of law and peaceful elections. Listen.
We have communicated our reservations in a letter that was written and signed by myself on the 27th of May 2020. As of now, we are even not aware whether the government has attended its signature to the agreement that we have signed today. For us, it's a very worrying development. The Peace Council also indicated to us when we raised issues, for instance, about the Ayawaso West Commission that was set up and its recommendations, and the white paper that was issued by government. Regrettably, as we speak now, not a single person who was found culpable by the commission of some of the violent things that we saw, including physical attack.
That's the national chairman of the opposition NDC, Samuel Ofuswampo. For my colleague, Kwesi Parker Wilson, was at that signing ceremony. He's followed through this whole issue. He joins us on the line with more on this. Parker, what has been the Peace Council's response to the NDC's reservations?
Well, the chairman is so excited about today's event that finally the NDC, being the key stakeholder in our election, has assented to this document, and also indicated that they have taken notice of the concerns raised by the NDC and assured them that they were going to resolve the matter.
The concerns that have been raised at the appropriate time. Sometimes it is difficult for people to understand people who are doing peace work, because peace work involves overt and overt activities. It involves covert and overt activities. In some cases, the overt activities effective than the overt activities. So we can assure our brothers and the entire Ghanaians that the Peace Council will do all it can with its partners to deliver on the mandate that we have been given. When we are seen and heard, even where it hurts, we will display understanding for the sake of Mother Ghana.
That's the chairman of the National Peace Council, Reverend Professor Emmanuel Asante. And now the Electoral Commission says it has already begun implementing the directive of the Supreme Court to ensure that Ghanaians living abroad have the opportunity to vote in our upcoming parliamentary and presidential elections. The Representation of the People Amendment Act passed 12 years ago is yet to be implemented. Now, this has sparked a number of court actions. And Accra High Court on May 8, 2019 granted a request by the Commission to implement the law. In an interview with Mamavi Owusu-Abuaji on the AN show on the Joy News channel, Deputy Commissioner in charge of Corporate Services, Dr. Eric Bosman Asare, said the CI is already in Parliament to kickstart the process.
We know people are 80 years, they have birth certificates indicating they are 70, etc. But that doesn't suggest that there is a card which is perfect. But this election, what the Commission is saying is that when we use the passport and the Ghana card, we think we are getting something which is more authentic.
That's another one. It says, Mamavi, good morning. Please ask Dr. Bosman if the option of voter transfers will be done in 2020.
Yes, it's something that came up yesterday, and we are special budget committee members that we are going to do it.
Here's another one. Can I register by proxy if I'm currently trapped outside the country due to COVID-19?
So currently, we don't have that in our laws. We don't have that in our laws. And the CI, which has just matured, we didn't anticipate that we are going to get to a point where some people will be stuck. But we are hoping that...
but to be fair, this CI, you kept changing, and it was presented within this COVID era. So you should have realized that people would be outside the country and would not be able to make it.
No, we couldn't have anticipated at the time. And if even we had anticipated, the law, the registration, the CR registration basically specified that you must appear in person. And you know, to do something in other jurisdictions will require some clearances. You need to engage the authorities, and I think that will maybe also fall under ROPA, because you need you can't just say I'm going to Nigeria to register Ghanaians. You can't just say, you need to have some clearance passages being allowed by the authorities of other countries. But we are anticipating that by the time the process will take off or come to an end, then I think we are picking information that...
well, that's those who can afford to pay the amounts that has been stated. So I don't think that every Ghanaian outside is somebody who originally lives in Ghana will be able to come if they are not able to afford.
I think it's something which is very important.
So if you live in Ghana and you went to visit and you're trapped outside, you are not able to return, and you miss the registration exercise, then that's it.
That's it. But what we are saying is that we are not finishing in June. And so I'm hoping that by the time, maybe July, who knows what is up there.
But my point is, if within the 38 days you're not able to return, then that's it.
That's it.
Now, the EC's Deputy Commissioner in charge of Corporate Services, Dr. Eric Bosman Asare, in that interview with Mamavi Owusu-Abuaji. Now, the Executive Secretary of the National Identification Authority is asking Ghanaians who are yet to receive their Ghana cards to refrain from re-registering. At a media briefing today, Ken Atefa said anyone who does this is engaging in fraud, which is punishable by law. The authority is preparing to begin a nationwide mop-up exercise tomorrow. It will also see a resumption of card registration in the eastern region, which was halted 3 months ago as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak.
In addition to these challenge cases, NI has withheld the Ghana card of some applicants because the personal identification numbers indicate that they have previously been registered in the National Identity Register as foreigners and have now attempted to register for the Ghana card as Ghanaians without showing evidence of acquiring Ghanaian citizenship. Persons in this category are required to provide evidence to establish that they have subsequently acquired Ghanaian citizenship.
That's the Executive Director of the NIA, Ken Atefa. My colleague, PSA Nanaya Osafo, is at that briefing. He joins me on the line. So, PSA, a lot of people are asking that where can they get their cards because they are yet to do so. Did that come up at the press conference, and what was the response?
Indeed, Emefa, they said centers of registration where previously the Ghana card registration has been held are areas where people can return for their cards. We are hoping that after the mop-up process on mid-September 2020, we can have more permanent structures where even beyond COVID-19 and the mop-up process, if there were any others who are out of the country currently, for instance, who cannot be able to go clean their cards, we can go back for that process.
That's my colleague PSA Nanaya Osafo. We'll have more of that from that press conference subsequently. Now, the race to parliament in the NPP has entered its final phase as candidates within the governing party push hard ahead of the primaries this weekend. As many as 306 parliamentary aspirants are contesting in 101 constituencies to select candidates for the December 7 elections. Disqualifications, invocation of cases, and allegations of favoritism have dominated the contest. But this weekend, the ones will influence likability and, most importantly, deep pocket will most likely sail through. The Member of Parliament for Bantama, Daniel Ochimabwaji, Ghana's ambassador to India, Michael Quay Jr., and his main contender, Deputy Majority Leader Sarah Adjua-Safo for the Dom Kwabenya constituency, and the Deputy Trade Minister, Robert Ahom Kalimse, have been speaking to Joy News.
Distinguish ourselves, so the people will have a reason to either say let's continue or let's say no. But I know they're going to decide wisely, and it's going to be my fear.
We, as the contestants, have to respect their choice. This is my second time, and we pray that we come victorious. We have the opportunity to serve the Dome Kwabenya constituency and to make Dome Kwabenya great.
This is not a fight, and it's within the papers. At the end of the day, we need a united front to be able to go for the mantle ahead of us in 2020.
I made a commitment based on a simple two-stage strategy. One is unity and the other is development. You cannot have one without the other.
Some NPP aspirants then, of course, all roads lead to the NPP primaries this weekend, and your election headquarters has got you covered. But which constituencies are we to watch? My colleague Winston Amwa joins me in studio. Walk us through them.
You've been talking about Dom Kwabenya, you've talked about Bantama. Of course, you should also be talking about New Jabbing South, where current MP and chairman of the Finance Committee, Dr. Marcus Ibeyebo, faces stiff competition from the CEO of the Ghana Free Zones Authority, that's Michael Befi. But let's also get to the Nkoko constituency, and it's interesting because you have the current member of parliament facing a competition from 5 persons, including 2 former members of parliament. That's Kwabena Dusel Ketri and then Seth Ejeba, which many persons call Shaba. And you have the CEO of the Ghana Publishing Company, that's David Asante, also seeking of Let My Vote Count fame, seeking to unseat the member of parliament of that particular constituency. Of course, the Akwitia constituency, you'd like to see what happens to Mercy Say, popularly known as Amma Say. She faces a competition by 3 men. Would she be successful in her re-election bid? Let me also take you to the Impriaso constituency, because Seth Kwame Champon, the current member of parliament who's chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee, is facing competition from Davis Opoku Ansa of AFAC, the director of operations of AFAC. That's Davis Opoku. He will be trying to unseat the member of parliament. If you go to the Ashanti region, you go to Adansia Sokwa, Katie Hammond, who you spoke to not long ago, is facing a challenge by, Samuel Benfo. There are other constituencies, but of course, you will trust
Join me tonight, and let's go to them.
Yeah. I will.
And let's go to them.
I'll be on our front.
Winston Awa, thank you very much, and it's your election headquarters. And it's time to take a quick breather here on the midday news. Our top stories: Ashanti region runs out of beds for treatment of COVID-19 patients, as all 38 beds at Komfo Anokye and Kumasi South hospitals are occupied. And also, opposition NDC finally signs comprehensive roadmap designed by the National Peace Council to deal with the threat of party militia, but not without some reservations. And later on Spotlight, we shine it on works of high life artist Ben Bracco, who had to travel to the United Kingdom to get his big break in music.
I've been singing all my life since I was a kid. I sang right from primary school.
And it's time for Joy News Agenda here on the Midday News. And this week is on the worsening condition of roads in the country as the rain set in. In today's episode, Joy News editor Fred Smith takes us to his community, Mile 7, where many potholes on the roads there is causing residents to develop health problems as well as high vehicle maintenance costs. Here's his report.
Welcome to Mile 7, a community in the Ganos municipality of the Greater Accra region.
For 6 years, this is where I have called home. A fun community, many loving people, and one of the best sceneries you can find anywhere in the world. But like many other communities, it is also bedeviled with problems, with bad roads topping the list. Plying through the roads at Mile 7 is a daily struggle, as some residents say the bump and grind leave them with high vehicle maintenance costs and health problems.
I'm laying me down. I pay me shocks 2 times.
I've had my vehicle break down here twice, in this very pothole. Our leaders don't fear God, and therefore don't have their people at heart. I won't even vote anymore. This road was constructed about 3 months ago, and already you can see the extent of damage. Successive governments have failed to ensure that contractors are doing quality work. We end up spending all our income on spare parts.
So the road is no good. My spinal cord, my backbone, all the pain. Let the shocks and some things they stop for the motor body. So I will make the can do and give us.
We experience flooding anytime it rains.
And that's the situation in Mile 7. We'll be heading to Hansonic Junction soon, and of course from the Dimond Road in the Dakuman area as well. But he's juggled between professions, from teaching to shipping and even to the commodities market. But high life artist Ben Bracco's big break in music happened outside the shores of Ghana, and since 1987 he has never looked back. Represent to you today on Spotlight, the Ntase Hitsmaker.
Ow, 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 wukuluwa. Oba Besia, when you know, da da da.
My name is Ben Bracco, Ghana's favorite uncle. They call me Uncle Ben. I've been singing all my life. In fact, I'm one of Ghana's first teenage pop stars.
While he was in school at the University of Ghana pursuing a degree, Ben Braco decided to test his talent. In this interview with Infobox Daily, he explains what he says could have been an indication of what was to come.
Whilst I was in Legon, I formed a group called Agwamba Gudureba just to test out my music ideas. We played only twice in public, and then 4 or 5 years after Legon, some of the people who came to my concerts still remembered the songs.
That was a kick that pushed him to take the music business a notch higher.
So I decided that I would go out and record because I hated the idea that one day I'll be an old man and sit and regret that I never recorded my songs.
But to make it in the industry in Ghana at the time, one needed a lot more than just talent.
I moved to live in London and it gave me a clean break.
Throughout his 30-plus year career, these 2 songs remain his all-time favorites.
The song that I think really touched me, 2. One is Entase, the one that says Wukun Wahin. And then, of course, one of the songs that I really like is called Etwe. Etwe is a traditional Cape Coast god.
With CD sales and music marketing taking a nosedive with the introduction of digital platforms, the Marie hitmaker admits revenues have slowed.
These days you can't make sales. If it catches on, then you get more appearance fees, you get more invites, you get to do more shows and stuff like that.
Mary Mazuzo, and that's it for the midday news. You're on Joy 99.7 FM. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. I am Emefa Apawu. Thanks so much for your company. Living Word with Dr. Mensah Bill is up next.